Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back as always to another edition of Deadlock Weekly, the show where I bring you all the latest news, leaks, esports roundups, and more every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern. And the first thing that we got this week is that we got the patch. Not the patch we were talking about last week, but a much needed balance patch nonetheless. And I think they accomplished what they set out to do in this patch. Initial reactions, right? The oppression of whichever Fed gun hero is on the enemy, it's over. Infernus isn't immediately oppressive in lane. He's not the absolute stomper that he was 2 days ago. I absolutely love the rejuve changes, even though they do add a little bit more invisible complication to the game. I also really like that they buffed the lifesteal. It was feeling pretty underwhelming in comparison to proper healing. And I think it's interesting, the balance that they're trying to strike. And this goes back to the introduction of the 3-lane map of games being engaging for as long as possible while also having them be less than 35 minutes. A month or so ago, the emphasis had been once you enter the base, the game should end. And they created this with the super beefy troopers, making some of the shrines easier to get to and moving the guardians back down those stairs. But they've scaled some of those changes back over the past month, and in the past couple of patches, it's been based around getting mid and then sieging base with the rejuve. And while they've scaled back almost all the soul bonuses from every objective in one way or another, because it just went way too far in the last patch, they're balancing it out by making it faster on the zipline back to base after killing the guardian. Or now rejuve, it drops to 2 whole seconds faster than it did a month ago. It's harder to steal now. They're trying very hard to find a way to keep games engaging, but still end quickly. Because I agree, when you're playing the game and you look up at the clock and you see you're 41 minutes into the game, it's not a fun feeling. It feels like their current objective is finding that sweet spot between getting fast games and not getting stomped in fast games. And honestly, guys, I actually haven't had a ton of time to play on this patch. It's mainly my initial reactions. It dropped while I was up in Maine, and I drove back down yesterday, played about 4 games, went to bed, and when I wake up on Sunday, I pretty much immediately start working on Deadlock Weekly. So I don't have a ton of hands-on takeaways, but I can say I do love Transcendent cooldown on Lash. It makes him an absolute ult demon in almost every objective push. You can just jump over the walker, ult their team, and bring him in. But going back to the big patch we were talking about last week, I did say it was coming this next week, and so you were wrong. I was, how used to that I am saying. I was wrong. You were right. Bombastic Mech in Discord really called it. It was only a day off. And then on the poll, this week was the most popular option to ignore the fact that the graphics wrong. It's because people jumped in after the patch dropped and voted and twisted the fates. So all you guys got it right. Good for you. But that then leaves us with the question, when is the hero patch? The same question we've now been asking for a few weeks. And frankly, I think it's still in the next couple or few weeks. The patch frequency has been major patch, few small patches over the next few weeks, and then slow down to patch every couple weeks, and then major update about 2 months after the previous major update. And we will be exactly 2 months post item patch this Tuesday. So don't be deceived by the fact that this is a big balance patch. They've consistently released major updates 2 weeks after the big balance patches. Both the item, the map, and somewhat the hero updates all followed this pattern. It's certainly possible, it's on the horizon, but it does seem like they're after a specific goal right now of finding the right game length. And honestly, guys, this patch leaves me more interested about the company culture at Valve. We've all seen those videos or read the articles about how different it is to work there as opposed to other studios. People get to pick what they work on and stuff like that, but dropping the patch on the 4th of July is really shocking to me, and I'm fascinated by the logistics of it. Did Yoshi or someone just have like have it ready on a laptop at home with a master switch just to push out the update? Maybe some folks on the Deadlock team aren't Americans, but I always assumed that things were kind of centered around their building in Seattle, but maybe that's changed in the post-COVID world. I don't know. I just hope those guys got some time off to enjoy the barbecue and weren't coding on a laptop in a folding chair at the corner of the yard. But per usual, guys, the patch is not the only thing that occurred this week. We did have a little bit more of the leaky faucet occur with some pocket leaks. We did get another look at the incoming pocket model with this image here, and he doesn't seem to be getting much of a redesign, much more of a glow up, and this reminds me a lot of how they did Abrams, where they didn't really change him that much necessarily, but they gave him a ton of new and better detail, and this looks a lot similar here. And guys, a quick sidebar before we get to Winrates Weekly. I really want to spend as much time as humanly possible making content and continuing down the road that we're on here. And if you want to support that goal directly and help me keep making Deadlock Weekly, I just started memberships on the channel this week, and becoming a member is the best way to support me and reach that goal. Members are going to get Deadlock Weekly a few hours early every week, a little thank you credit at the end of every video, a private Discord channel in our community Discord, and I'll make sure to prioritize your comments on the videos here too. So guys, if you're able and you want to support a Deadlock creator who absolutely adores this game, and you like the show, what we're doing here, becoming a member is the best way to do that, and it's hard for me to say how grateful I would be, so thank you. But moving on to Winrates Weekly, guys. I actually grabbed these screenshots on Saturday morning right after the patch dropped, after I woke up from my Blue Mountain-induced stupor. I felt like a balance patch as big as this, we would get some really strange data if we let it and mixed both patches, and I grabbed it like during recording like I normally do. So I grabbed the 6-day data. We can compare it pre and post patch next week as well, and as opposed to some like weird kind of 7-day data. Let me know if you think I should have done something differently there, and we can adjust as we go for future patches. But this just shows how out of hand things got this patch, guys. Viper being the #1 win rate hero is absolutely insane and completely out of touch with how this game should be played. It makes total sense, right? She could just melt the objectives faster than anyone can rotate, but we all know that's not how that should go. And then you go down the next 6 heroes, and they're all gun characters. It's actually insane how much of this showed up in the statistics this week, and just goes to show how much of a flub, frankly, this last patch was, and completely threw the game out of whack, maybe more so than any patch we had previous. And again, before I sound too negative, the ups and downs, that's just part of the playtesting process, so don't get me wrong, I'm not going to be standing outside Valve with a picket line anytime soon. This is just all part of it, but I'm also not going to eat a cheeseburger and say it's vegan. I'm sure we're going to see some major correction this week. And then, guys, you may think it was a light week on the tournament roundup, and yeah, it was, but Deathy's Death Slam is ongoing right now. The Swiss round was just yesterday, and so we'll have the bracket rounds to go over that take place next Saturday. A really fun tournament for amateur players and individuals. So go take a watch on Saturday if you want to see the final day of that. And so then, guys, as we get to our videos, I'm going to lean on you guys a little bit this week. I saw a great video from Mattia, and as I'm writing this, Mikhail upload his patch reactions, and so that's linked as well. But what do you guys see that was interesting this week? I wasn't at my computer as much as normal. And then, guys, I know we just talked about how good the Yamato skin was a couple of weeks ago, but honestly, this might be my favorite one yet. K2SO Bebop. Some of these mods recently have just been insane, and now you can live out the Gorman Massacre in its full glory in the Cursed Apple with this K2SO Bebop skin made by Boomer. This is just an impressive combination of two things that I love. The ult laser is even a green laser that plays the Imperial March when you use it. It doesn't get any better than this. Shout out Boomer, this is so cool. And since we're a little bit later on videos this week, I just wanted to call out Average Jonas, who has a great stream as well. And I saw him using this mod on stream yesterday. He's actually somewhat responsible for Deadlock Weekly, but that's a story for another time. And then, guys, let's talk some Deadlock. We did have a few comments come in this week, and our first one's from 6max678. If Valve pulled you into their office tomorrow and said, Ansonex, we need you to make one big controversial change to Deadlock, what would it be? And the first thing I actually want to mention, guys, is that I've got my names online as Ansonex because you need a username, but my real name is Will, and honestly, that's what I prefer to go by because, honestly, I am Will. Ansonex is just kind of what I go online because I have to. So feel free to call me Ansonex, of course, but I like being the real me, and the real me is named Will. But back to your comment, honestly, right now, I would just remove shrines for 3 days and see what happens. I really liked a few months ago where they did an experiment where the urn, I forget if you dropped it off or you picked it up in mid, and I wish they had kept doing some radical experiments like that. Shrines are borderline pointless right now, and they've really only served the purpose of beefing up the base or being a flex slot mechanic, which they're not a flex slot mechanic right now. So I would remove the shrines for a few days and just plan to reintroduce them if it completely puts things sideways, but I would love more intense experiments like that to happen again. And so I guess maybe not one radical change, but I would love to see those experiments come back. And then our next comment from Salty Boy Productions. Matchmaking issues have been due to smurfing and basing the matchmaking on rank solely. Matchmaking below Ritualist is actually nightmarish. The claim that your team is, say, Seeker 6, but there's actually a Seeker 1 smurf on the team who hit Oracle and hopped on a new account. With the kill changes, this has made the game super unfun in mid to low ranks. And I almost completely agree with you here. Not to toot my own horn here, guys, but I feel like I have been hitting the nail on the head with diagnosing the problem with matchmaking for months now, and ultimately it's led to smurfing like this. And so the abridged version of my theory is this. The way we all got access to this game is through a friend, unless you're one of the folks who just messaged people until they had it sent their way. A huge group of players that play this game are queued with friends. They're just naturally going to be wide skill disparities between friends. The group I play with is a group that has people from overall NA leaderboard players to alchemist. and sometimes those people queue together. And it'll try and find an appropriate match in Ritualist or Emissary, but then we all know how well that goes. There are plenty of players, like the leaderboard player, right, who just make a smurf to play with their friend without getting dumpstered, which leads to them just dumpstering someone in return. And so I think that's what ultimately the issue is. And again, matchmaking is something that I'm not really sure they should be addressing unless they plan on there being really significant time between now and the open beta. If we're still on track to have open beta by the end of the year, like a lot of the community, myself included, is theorizing, then don't worry about matchmaking. But if we're still here a year from now in this friends-only player test phase, and we're still just patching away like we are now, every couple of weeks we got a new patch, number one, I'm concerned for the future of the game. But number two, I would hope that they would address these matchmaking issues in some type of a proper matchmaking overhaul patch at some point. Because if we're all going to be quote-unquote testing this game for the next year plus, I would hope that they would invest a little bit more into the actual tester experience. Then our third comment comes from Stacy and Brandon. Do you feel the Vindicta hate is way overblown? I personally do. The argument to buff McGinnis was her pick rate was bad. Now Vindicta's pick rate is bad almost across the board, but that's not a valid argument on why she should be nerfed even further. I just feel some YouTubers are biased and not consistent in their opinion and methodology on how nerfs and buffs should be handed out, which is a shame considering a lot of these people are in the secret playtest making these decisions. Well, let's not get tinfoil hatty about who and who isn't in the playtest, because frankly, we're not going to get anywhere making those assumptions. But to go back to what you were saying about McGinnis, yeah, it's easy to look at Winrates Weekly every week and just go, nerf the gun heroes, nerf them, and Valve had to do that this week, right, because of how out of whack the gun damage became. But if you look at the patch notes, they're not changing things specifically because gun heroes are overpowered. It's because gun heroes lend themselves to snowballing the game in an unengaging way. I think the Vindicta hate is mostly gun hero hate, and she's especially easy to hate because of her ult. It absolutely sucks to get hit by, and it's just an instant kill laser, right? So she's an easy target for a wider issue. It's really easy when you get killed to go exactly why I got killed with these gun heroes and Vindicta as well. But I would also say McGinnis's pick rate was bad because before the shop update, she couldn't really fill any role that wasn't anchoring a lane, which also isn't really great strategy in Deadlock. It's not really solely based on win rate. And then our final comment comes from AddieWin. Thanks so much, AddieWin. What are your thoughts on heroes falling off early versus late game? Do you think heroes should be viable at all stages in the game, or do you think that one should have an optimal scaling time? And I think all heroes should absolutely be viable at all stages in the game. I'm really against some heroes being noticeably stronger early in the game versus late, and like really noticeably stronger. Now, the way that lane staging works, I like that because it's a limited but dynamic part of the game that introduces a lot of problem solving that I think is really fun. And 8 minutes in, it's essentially over, right? I'm a much bigger proponent of the power spiking that we see in the game right now. For example, when Caligo upgrades her ult all the way to 5 action points and I get my cooldown reset after using her ult, I know it's go time for the next few minutes. I really like that, but I would be against something like a hero who can't be effective until 10 minutes in the game, where all of a sudden they're really effective for the next 15 minutes, only to fall off if you don't end the game by those 15 minutes being up. And some people might get that confused with like Haze and 7 kind of farm until win situation, but I think that's different because the time that it takes Haze and 7 to get farmed up to that point, in theory, is more time than it should take either team to win the game. Theoretically, right? It's not like they have that ability. They have an ability after 30 minutes, right? They just become so much better than everybody else. The team that is allowing that farm ultimately isn't punishing them in one way or another. It's not like they just scale naturally out of whack. And so, guys, that's all I got for you this time. And to think this was going to be a shorter one, these just keep getting longer and longer as we add more and more stuff into them, which is great. I love that, and I hope you do as well. So, guys, I hope you have a fantastic week, and I will see you again next weekend. Peace.